Captain's log. Star date 25, 28, 29, 32. I'm here on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. I refer to the Enterprise as in the full name of the Star Trek as well. This is a Star Trekker class ship. That's not true, but I like to think it is. Anyway, I'm the captain of this vessel. Me, Tristan. Hey, hi, how's it going? And with me is my number 2, Hassan.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Captain.
You're welcome. Now, just to iterate to you, Captain's log, we are on collision course with an asteroid. It is an asteroid shaped like the giant head of none other than William Shatner, which is honestly pretty ironic given the circumstances, with this being a vessel to trek stars, and William Shatner being someone who is tangentially related to it.
Yeah, so Captain, I've recommended it twice now. I really like you taking in consideration my recommendation of we just turn the ship.
Turn, you say?
Yeah, so asteroids coming at us like this, like straightforward. We just tilt the ship. I mean, we're in space, so literally any which degree we decide to turn the ship towards, it'll miss us.
Okay, I understand that.
Great, so you're going to let me do that?
No. Because I feel if we turn the ship, this asteroid, like I said, it is a sentient asteroid shaped like William Shatner's head. I think if we turn the ship, it would violate its, humanity. We can't do that.
Captain.
What?
When big, solid object hit our ship moving fast.
Right, of course.
We die.
I understand that. But again, ethically speaking, this asteroid wants to hit us.
I just don't think we should sacrifice the entire crew and a starship that requires a lot of resources to make so that one asteroid is happy.
Well, I think that's why, to be fair, I think that's a good point. That's a good point. But I think we can do it better. I think that as the Federation, we need to be a better example across the galaxy. And there's no better example than letting this thing hit us. Now, I think what's going to happen, though, I've consorted with our science officer, and she has said that basically if we let this thing hit us, essentially what's going to happen is it's going to disrupt the time flow, and essentially we're going to go around it via time.
Captain,
yes,
it's a giant rock. That's not how that works.
Okay.
We just get smushed.
Okay, fair enough. What if instead... Ooh, okay. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to mount the warp drive backwards. And then as the rock hits us, we warp backwards, which puts us backwards in time, that's out of the path of the rock. And then we can safely veer off and not hurt its feelings.
Alright, yeah, fine. I'll tell engineering to get to work on that, Captain.
Yeah, alright, flip the warp drive, let's go.
Another incredible maneuver from Captain Crane.
That is correct.
Starfleet will somehow award you another medal for this.
It'll be my 65th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. In just this month, too, for these incredible maneuvers. Because, again,
of course, Captain,
every time I make one of these decisions, it's with the thought of what is ethically good for both us, but mostly the things out there. Keeping up appearances for the Federation is the main thing that a captain can do. And number 2, you gotta learn this. You will be captain someday. Because at some point I will be killed by the Borg. The Borg, I assume, again, it usually happens. I think.
No, Borg, definitely not me with a knife in your sleep.
Can you at least pretend to be a Borg when it happens?
Sure, I'll call myself Locutus 2.
Ooh, all right, sounds good. Well, while we're waiting for engineering to flip the warp drive around, want to hang out? Want to talk about something? Like, I don't know. It's going to take like an hour, so.
It would take a lot longer than an hour, but yes, Tristan, there is something I'd like to talk about, and that is, in fact, Star Trek Lower Decks. Specifically, we're covering seasons 1 through 3.
Yeah, okay, sure.
This week. We will cover the future seasons after.
Sounds good.
For anybody who doesn't know, so Star Trek Lower Decks is a relatively recent, we'll say, animated series set in the Star Trek universe. It began in August of 2020.
Yes.
And it just wrapped up in December of 2024. Yes. Had a 5-season run, 10 episodes each season. Standard 30-minute television length. Yep. And it is a show that it follows the Starship Cerritos, the USS Cerritos, which is a California-class ship. And the idea being that the sort of California class is sort of the, like, for lack of a better term, it's not like the workhorse of Starfleet. It's like the donkey of Starfleet in the sense that, like, you know, it's less sort of respected and less thought of compared to, like an Enterprise or some of these other ships, but it's out there doing, a lot of the groundwork.
Sure, okay.
And the reason that this show is called Lower Decks is that specifically the main sort of, it's a little bit weird because they aren't technically the main cast, but over time, the main cast comes more and more to include the bridge crew, but it's called Lower Decks because it is about the lower deck members, the ensigns. So specifically, our main four are Beckett Mariner, played by Tawny Newsome, Brad Boimler, played by Jack Quaid, Devon Attendee, played by and so Beckett Mariner and Jack Quaid, they're both humans, just regular humans. Devon Attendee, played by Noelle Wells, who she is an Orion, which they are a green-skinned alien race that primarily they are known for being space pirates.
Yeah. Cool.
And then we have Samanthan Rutherford, who he is played by Eugene Cordero. He is also human, but he has a implant where basically he's got almost like a DBZ scouter style thing over one eye, and then it's sort of metal in the top. I think it's left sort of quarter of his face.
Yeah.
And they are the lower deckers. They're sort of our main cast, and then we also have our bridge crew. So we have Captain Carol Freeman, played by Don Lewis. Yep. Commander Jack Ransom, her number 2, played by Jerry O'Connell.
Fuck yeah. All right.
Jack Ransom might be my favorite character. He's great. We have Lieutenant Shax, who he is the security officer, played by Fred. I'm actually not sure how his last name is said. Tatasciore?
Tatasciore.
We have... Yeah, I'm not sure. We have Dr. Ta'ana. Just quickly go back. So Captain Freeman and Jack Ransom, they're both human. Shax is a oh my god, I can't think of the name of his race again. The ones that fought the Cardassians. Blank out. It's not going to come to me, but the ones that have the ridge noses. Basically, I don't know if they originate in DS9, but that's where they are the most prevalent.
Ferengi.
No. Like the female second in command on DS9 is one of those.
Double Ferengi.
Yes, double Ferengi. You got it.
You asked the wrong guy. Not a big Star Trek guy.
All right, fine. I'm just gonna look it up. Bajorians.
Bajorian. Oh, the Bajorians. Yes.
Dr. Ta'ana, who I'm not sure what race she's supposed to be, but she's just a cat lady.
All right. Yeah.
Played by Gillian Vigman. And then we have Lieutenant Commander Andy Billups. He's the head of engineering, played by Paul Scheer. That's most of Scheer. The main crew. Eventually, we won't get into her this season. She does show up a little bit. There is a Vulcan, Talin, who eventually gets transferred to the Cerritos, but that's more further on. And then there's a litany of other characters we'll talk about. But premise of the show is, hey, the lower deckers on a ship. It's the less elegant ship than the others. Bit more of a comedy than other Star Trek stuff.
Yeah,
has cursing. Most of it is bleeped out, but shows violence. Like characters will just end up getting like knife wounds and stuff into them. It's a really fun show. Good, fantastic characters. So getting into our main groups. So Beckett Mariner. Her whole thing is she likes being in Starfleet, but she is rebellious. She doesn't like the idea of chains of command. She's very self-sacrificing. Like, she's been promoted and demoted countless times.
All right.
Drinks a lot, etc. Brad Boimler, look, he's a Jack Quaid character. I don't know what else to say. He's kind of a nerdy loser.
Yeah, okay. Jack Quaid,
if you know Jack Quaid, it's a Jack Quaid.
Mm-hmm.
Anxious ball of nerves,
Mm-hmm.
Devon Attendee, she is super upbeat, outgoing, but because of sort of Orion or prejudice towards Orions and this idea of, they're, space pirates and they can't be good science officers and that, she's got some self-doubt there. And Samantha Rutherford, he's just, he's kind of Ned Flanders in a way, just very okie dokie, I'll take care of that. Except he's like obsessed with engineering. Like, the best night of his life is, I get to go into the Jeffrey tubes and do some rewiring.
Awesome.
Thank you, Commander Billups. This is the best. Like, he's just loves engineering and tech and that. And one of the more interesting things about this show is that it is just very focused on this group's friendship and supporting each other. And obviously they'll, have fights and arguments and get at each other's throats, etc. But they're pretty much, it's a very platonic relationship, to the point that in season 2, we'll get into some of the story stuff.
Sure.
But there's a point where like Boimler gets transferred to another ship, and it's all the lower deckers are just taking a shower naked, and it's Mariner is talking to this new guy who's kind of the like Boimler replacement. She's like, can you that's kind of where Boimler would shower, and it just feels weird, just having somebody else in his shower spot. Like, I was like, it's just a shower spot. What does it matter? And like, these characters are naked talking that way. It's just like, it's a little bit nice to have a show like that it's not trying to go for the sexual tension. On the flip side, I do wish it did have a little bit more romance subplots and acknowledge that it's by and large devoid of it.
Okay.
But
interesting. So, I mean, like Star Trek often does have romantic subplots. From what I know,
it does. But the thing I would say is it's never. It's a very like. it's either one of two ways when it comes to like romance with Star Trek. Of either it shows the actual physical intimacy of romance, or it's, you know, very cerebral in it, and it never really does a good job of just like showing characters on, you know, a date and just having like subtle romantic movies of like, oh, it's just, you know, a night in, watching a holovid, having some popcorn kind of thing, or like, you know, you never see just characters kind of get into that like weird rhythm that, you know, when you get deep into a relationship, like things that'd be weird to do if you don't like just sharing a toothbrush kind of thing of like, you know, that'd be, if you and I share a toothbrush, it's like, that's kind of gross and weird, but like, you know, you get in a relationship, you're like, nah, whatever, it's not a big deal. Oops, I used your toothbrush. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Whatever, you know, we exchange saliva a whole lot, not a big deal. So like Star Trek's never been good at that part of romance. At least not in my opinion. One thing to note about this show is that it so a lot of Star Trek recently have been prequel series. Sorry, I'm just going to try and pull up a list here. So before this, so there was these are not the right. Okay, there. So we had Enterprise, which takes place way earlier. Discovery takes place alternate universe, but earlier, I believe. Strange New Worlds takes place earlier. We did have Picard and Prodigy, which don't take place later.
No.
The other thing is Lower Decks takes place in the same universe as like TNG, DS9, Voyager. It's set all in that timeline. Some of those characters end up showing up in this. And so it's just nice to like go back to that. None of the J.J. Abrams nonsense, none of the other alternate reality. Oh, well, we want to have our version of Spock and Picard stuff. Although they do have a crossover episode with Strange New Worlds, but we talked about that at that time. It's a good, fun one. But it was really just refreshing to watch it. And there's still alternate history stuff. But to just go, oh, yeah, right. Remember when Star Trek was mostly just this one Star Trek thing and they weren't constantly trying to reboot it and they were willing to have other characters and not just be like, well, no, we need Spock and Picard. Or Spock and Kirk. Everything has to revolve around Spock and Kirk. We can't not have a Spock or a Kirk in everything.
The reason being the two most well-known characters in Star Trek history of basically like the studios are going to make them try and force those characters into fucking everything they possibly can. That's just the reality of that. It's the Skywalker effect in a way.
It really is. But this has basically none of that. Again, some characters do show up. There's Sulu shows up.
All right, that's cool.
Riker does show up as well as his wife, Deanna Troi. So it's not that they aren't there, but it also likes to take the absolute piss out of them. So Riker, who is now the captain of the USS Titan, it just portrays him as like an extreme version of himself where, he's always going off trying to get into exciting action. And then he'll, after have a fun jazz concert. It's like, all right. Yeah. I like the idea of them just taking Riker down a peg or two, let's say.
That's pretty good.
Making him a real goofball.
Which he is.
it's also like one of the things that makes the show really good is getting to see things from the perspective of the lower deckers. And so when they start out, they are mostly unknown to the bridge crew. Like, don't necessarily remember their names other than, I guess, slight spoilers, I don't know. Beckett Mariner is the daughter of Captain Freeman, as well as, I forget her father's name. He's an admiral.
Yeah.
But that's kind of hidden. And that's the whole thing, is like the end of season 1, Boimler reveals it. It becomes this big, no, sorry, it's the end of season 2, I think it is. It gets revealed. Big friction point. It all gets resolved. But it's nice to see, you know, they start out, they aren't known by the bridge crew, but slowly they build it up. And like, in particular, there are these moments where, you know, Boimler will go on some, say, away mission with, say, Ransom and like 2 other people. And the away mission will go a little bit, say, sideways. And Boimler just thinks like, oh, you know, this was my shot. It got ruined, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden, you know, comm badge goes off and be like, Ensign Boimler, come to like, you know, whatever room to help out with X thing. And he'll get there and be like, yeah, I was called. It's like, yeah. Commander Ransom said you should be good at helping out with this. Be like, wait, really? Commander Ransom said I should do that? Like, yeah, he said you showed some moxie on the recent away mission and that thought you'd be good at helping out with this. And, you know, getting to see them build up like that is really good. And the thing about Ransom, I think it's why he's my favorite, is he's a literal, like, gym rat bro dude. And so you think he would suck that way.
Yeah.
But he's actually, like, super aware of what's going on with the crew around him and kind of taking note of them and helping to build them up and like create confidence and get them on kind of the right career path and stuff like that.
So
and the entire
bro dude.
Yeah, no, he's a great bro dude, but he'll also like use his like shitty gym broness to his advantage. So like sometimes he'll be like, "Oh, Mariner, I'm going to give you a commendation for this recent." And she's like, "I don't want that." And he'll be like, "Oh, too bad, I'm giving you one." Just starts taking his shirt off, and she's like, "But I don't want it." He's like, "Well, you know, if you want to sit here and complain, you can. You're just going to have to help me count 1." Dude, she's like, "Are you seriously just going to sit here?" He's like, "Oh, I've got 300 more of these to get through." Oh, God damn it. And like, there's an episode, Mariner can also be very reckless as a result of this. And I forget exactly what happens, but they go to this planet. People are like, "Oh, you offended us. You now have to fight our strongest warrior." And Mariner's like, "Ha, finally a chance to fight, do this." And Ransom's like, "No, you're not going." She's like, "What do you mean? I'm the commander. I don't send my people out to do a dangerous thing. I'm going out there." She's like, "No, I'm going. And he literally just like injures her so she can't go, and he goes in her place. And that's the kind of bro dude he is. He's like, "No, I'll do the right thing. I'll punch you in the face if I have to, but I'm gonna do the right thing." And yeah,
Respect.
he's fantastic. Jiro Kano does a great job as him. I forget if it's in season 1 through 3 or if it's a later one. Like, kind of the most emblematic thing of this show, and how it has these. It blends the comedy, but also with that Star Trek-y, you know, hope and belief in the greater good and humanity in that.
Sure.
There's this really good scene later on where they get a I think Tellarite are the name of the people, but it's the race that do the Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. Shaka when the walls fell. I think so. Koth, his eyes open. It's like a really famous TNG episode where there are people who they just speak that way of these sort of there's a specific term I want, but I can't think of it. Like not quite an analogy, but along those lines.
Like a metaphor.
Kind of, yeah. Right. Turns of phrase, etc.
Yeah.
And there's just one later on where, so they have one in the crew, and I forget what happens, and they're there, and Ransom just shakes his head, and he's like, says one of these phrases of like, Darmok, his eyes closed, and the Tellarite, he just goes, "You're learning," and he just touches his shoulder. He's like, "Hey, I like to listen." It's like, oh, that's this super sweet, tender moment. This just real throwaway line.
Yeah.
But that is so much what this show is about. Where like Mariner will try and do some stupid, reckless thing, but the lower deckers will be there and they will help her do her dumb, reckless thing, but also try and like address the like, yeah, but why do you feel you have to do this dumb, reckless thing? Or if Tendi is having one of these self-doubt moments of like, I don't know if I'm a good enough science officer for this, they will be there to support her and encourage her and drive her forward. So kind of getting into the first 3 seasons. So season 1, it's largely about just getting to learn these characters, not really much of an overarching plot here. Okay, it is the final episode of season 1 where Boimler basically accidentally reveals that Mariner is Captain Freeman's daughter. Oh God, I forgot about that. It involves a new crew member, which is a sentient robot that it's like a pretty small, like only the size of a head, this kind of floating robot called Peanut Hamper, which is a just
Peanut
great
Hamper. Okay.
robot name. Yeah. No idea why it's called that, but it is. And they end up getting attacked by the Packlids, who believe they come from the next generation. They're kind of just a group of like idiots that just steal tech. And as a result, Shax, the security officer, and Rutherford have to go onto their ship to basically free the Cerritos from them. Shax dies in it. Don't worry, he comes back to life. Because, Star Trek. Of course
you
that
do,
happens.
yes.
Yeah. Riker shows up, saves them at the last minute. And as a result of all this, and as part of this, Boimler ends up getting transferred to Riker's ship, the Titan. And so part of season 2 is there's this whole drama around Boimler is gone, Mariner feels betrayed, but Boimler ends up getting cloned in a transport accident, and so Brad Boimler ends up coming back to the Cerritos while I forget whatever he ends up, the other Boimler ends up getting called William Boimler. That's it. Hey, Sean, his eyes open. That's it. Sorry, that's the phrase that he uses. Season 2 is kind of all about like the crew being one of the things they'll say is Cerritos strong. And that's kind of what season 2 really is it's us. Season 1 is we're getting to meet the crew. We're getting to figure out these relationships.
Okay.
Season 2 is, okay, these relationships are established. We're now seeing that build up. So this is where we get to see the bridge crew start to recognize and remember the lower deckers. They start to give them more kind of important tasks. This also has, I really like the final episode of each season. They do a really good culmination thing with it. So season 1 you get a little bit less of that, but you get a little bit of it, that the crew all kind of coming together. Season 2 is the Cerritos has been sent to help another ship with first contact. When they get to the system that the planet they're going to is in, basically some unusual activity from their sun, as well as a weird asteroid field, causes the Archimedes, the ship that's supposed to make first contact, to lose its power, and the Cerritos cannot get there to help them because this asteroid belt, it would basically be attracted to Wikipedia. Are you going to tell me what it is? No, I don't think so. But basically, it would get attached to the hull of the ship, and it would explode. It's just attracted to whatever the metal is, and it would try and attack them. And so Captain Freeman, who has sort of been offered a opportunity to transfer to a better ship, Beckett overhears. These two are feuding. It's the ship is in tension in this really dangerous thing. And then Rutherford realizes, oh my God, I know how we get around this.
Oh.
We have to remove all the outer plating on the ship. It's just going to be this bare bones, just like the chassis and internals of the ship. And then this metal won't be attracted to us, and we can get there, and we can save because what's going to happen is the Archimedes, because it lost power, is going to like plunge into the planet and cause a massive disaster. So they need to get there and stop this.
Yeah.
And so it's this great moment of, the entire crew have to come together, and they have to manually basically remove all these like rivets and screws and what have you to completely strip the ship down to its bare minimum. And, it is Captain Freeman giving this speech of, hey, the shuttles, escape pods, anyone who doesn't want this, you can leave. This is going to be super dangerous because it means without the outer plating, we don't have shields. So if one of these things strikes the ship, we're all dead. This is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
But Cerrito's strong. The crew all comes together. They manage to save it. It's great. Hurrah. However, at the very end of it, oh no, the Packlids from season 1 got attacked, and they're blaming Captain Freeman, and she's under arrest.
Oh no.
Which it maybe
did the way.
Two of my favorite moments. So one is two of the just goofiest, I'll say, maybe not favorite, but goofiest and most enjoyable are. So season 3 starts with the crew of the Cerritos grounded. Bradward Boimler has to go back home to his family's vineyard in California, and he's Jack Quaid is just quintessential goofball nerd. He does the voice of Clark Kent in My Adventures with Superman.
Exactly. Yes.
I haven't watched it. As I understand, he's a similar character on The Boys.
Yes,
just this real anxious thing. So he goes back and he just hates being on this vineyard, even though this vineyard is just full of these women who are just coming up to him. They're like, "Oh no, Brad, I think my grapes are too sweet. Can you help me confirm and fix this?" And he just eats it. Beverly, just let it get another 43 hours of sun and it'll be fine. God. Or another one comes in, "Oh, Brad, all these grapes are so confusing. Grape variety is so confusing. Can you help me?" Stephanie, the red grapes go in the red bucket. The white grapes go in the white bucket. And then as him and Beckett are leaving, because Beckett's like, "No, I have to save my mom. I'm going to go off on this reckless plan where we're going to steal the Cerritos and get all this blah, blah, blah." This woman's just right. She's like, "Oh no, Brad, I got covered in grape juice. Can you help me strip down and fix it?" Just like, God damn it, Susan. Just hose yourself down. It's not a problem. And I just love the idea of, oh no. Starfleet Bradward Boimler, loser, hard for him to get a date.
Yeah.
Earth Bradford Boimler, he has to fend off women, but he just hates being on a vineyard. And then the other one is I forget the name of them. So Commander Billups is the crown prince of this group. That they're effectively like LARPers, where they don't refer to it as the engine core; it's the dragon's stomach, and the ships. Instead of it being a starship, it's like our winged metal chariot kind of thing. But the thing is, once Billups consummates a relationship and becomes a full-fledged man, he has to take the crown, and his mother is just constantly trying to trick him into having sex. And so the premise of this entire episode is she fakes her death to try and get Billups to have sex, and he is about to, but he has performance issues, and he's like, oh, thank God, my virginity can stay intact, and I get to spend my time with sweet lady engineering and science.
Oh my God.
It's like, this show is so stupid. I love this. Yes, it's fantastic. The absolute best episode, though, is, I think, the end of season 3. The finale is also really good, but season 3 does a thing that just I'm a sucker for it every time. And so to set some things up, there is an admiral. I just saw his name and now I can't find it. Buenamigo, Admiral Buenamigo. He has invented these starships that are entirely automated. Ooh. No human crew, no organic crew at all.
Fuck that.
And so as part of before we get to find out about this, there is a news crew that basically comes to the Enterprise, the Cerritos, to basically find out, what's it like being on the Cerritos, blah, blah, blah. When the news program airs, and so the whole time Mariner wants to talk to this news person, and her mother's like, no, I know what she's like. She's going to try and sabotage us and make us all look bad. News program airs. It makes them look bad. It's talking about hey, one time the commander of this crew turned into a giant floating head and tried to destroy his own ship by eating it, which I thought you had watched episodes when you were talking about that intro, because I was like, that's kind of like a plot of an episode where literally Jack Ransom gets hit by this, they go to this planet, gets hit by some ancient tech, turns into this godlike being, but it makes him go insane, and literally it's just his giant head trying to eat and destroy the ship.
well, no, so the best thing about Star Trek, anything, is that you can come up with the most outlandish bullshit, and it just works for Star Trek.
An episode, yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. Shax had talked about one time I died, and then I came back. Unspeakable acts of science were required to bring me back and claw my soul from the afterlife. And, everyone thinks it was Mariner's fault that it happens. Turns out it wasn't. But while they're with this TV crew, that's when they get attacked by some evil aliens. Bueno Amigos, robots come and save. Or, sorry, not robots, but automated ships come and save. And so the finale, and so Mariner ends up leaving. So finale episode is, those ships went evil. And they are attacking this starbase. The Cerritos has to basically pull them away. So it starts attacking, goes into warp as they're flying away. And it's there's this great moment where earlier before this happened, so like I said, 2 and 3 you really get to see the bridge crew and the lower deckers building up a relationship. And so Shax, who is the security officer, he started referring to both Rutherford and Boimler as Baby Bear. So
Baby Bear?
What's up, Baby Bear? How's it going? It's because he's got kind of a deeper voice like this. Oh, Baby Bear. Oh, Baby Bear, you seem upset. Is everything okay? It's great.
That's
it's basically
really good.
It's basically really imagine if just Worf was like going around talking to ensigns and just be like, "Everything okay, Baby Bear?" It's so good. I love it. But he had walked in and Boimler was kind of making fun of him, and he got all upset by he's a weird softie. Than him and Dr. T'Ana have just very violent sex is the only way I can put it. Like, he comes out, he's covered in claw marks, and they've got an interesting relationship.
Clearly.
Yes. But so they're at warp. These evil automated ships are chasing them. Everyone's throwing out these ideas. At one point, Shax says, "Oh, we should eject the warp core." And he always wants to do that. Like, there's an earlier episode where at one time, I forget who's attacking them. He's like, "Captain, we should disable the warp core. We should go for the warp core. Please let me go for warp core. I've been a very good boy this month, Captain. Please let me have this." And finally, eventually she relents and she goes, "All right, Shax, get their warp core." Yeah! No! Our weapons have been disabled. It was my time. This isn't fair. But as they're flying, he suggests that, and then everyone's just throwing out these ideas, and Boimler stands up and just goes, "Shut up! Would you all just shut up and listen to what Shax says?" Commander Freeman goes, "Mr. Boimler, no, please, Captain, just listen to what Shax says." And he's just very timid and confused, like, I said we should eject the warp core." "Mr. Boimler, that's what Shax said." "Oh my God, yes, that will work. Mr. Shax, you go and eject that warp core." "Really, Captain? Can I finally eject the warp core?" "Yes, Mr. Shax." And then it's, he's getting into the lift. He gets down. He's walking down the corridor. And it's the entire crew clapping and hollering his name. Like, "Whoa, Shax, go Shax." Gets into engineering. All the engineers like, "You blow up that warp core, Shax. You go and do that, man." They're all so excited for him and stoked. Like, this is dumb, and I love it.
That's really good.
They eject the warp core. It takes out 2 of the ships, but oh no, the third one has managed to survive. What are they gonna do? It's just it seems like they're doomed. Mariner comes in just some rinky-dink shuttle. She's like, "Don't worry, Cerritos, we're here to help." And Mom's like, no, get out of here, Mariner. You're going to be destroyed. It won't work." She's like, "Yeah, that's why I brought help." Boof, another ship comes in, California class. So the whole thing is Buenamigo was like, "Oh, we're going to retire the California class. We don't need it anymore. We can just have these automated ships to take care of it," right? It's like, hey, who needs a donkey when you have a tractor kind of thing.
Sure.
So it, boom, warps in, and Freeman's like, no, like, it's too powerful for a California class. We're too small, we're too weak. And that's when Mariner's like, "Yeah, I know. That's why I brought them all." And I was like, "What do you mean all?" And just boom, 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 ship after ship is warping in, and it's just Boimler reading off all the names of these cities in California, because they're all named after it. It's like, the San Jose, the Clemente, the blah, 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 going off, and he's like rattling them off so fast.
Cool.
And it's just this feel good, like, yeah, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
like, it's always great to have that moment of like, oh, the cavalry is coming in,
Yeah. That was
Han Solo flying in and shooting off the ships, kind of thing.
Let's blow this thing, kind of. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just really good, and like the build up to it from season 1 and getting to see, like, here are the lower deckers. They do lower deck jobs. Literally some of it is like, oh, need you to clean gunk off this ship because you're a lower decker. That's what you do. You get the bad jobs. You don't get that responsibility throughout it, building it up and having these moments where, like, in season 2, we get to see Rutherford, and he's the one that comes up with this idea of removing the hull plating and, getting these responsibilities. Tendi, she gets assigned important scientific research at this. We didn't really talk about her too much, just because, like, Boimler and Mariner end up feeling kind of more like lead characters than the other, because they're the ones that have the biggest character arcs and the most character development, because, like, Rutherford gets important tasks and he builds relationship with the crew, and they try and kind of do this thing about his implants and it suppressing some past memories, but he really doesn't have much of a what I would call, like, a character goal. There's not really something he's working towards, where, like, Boimler, he wants to someday be a commander. He, wants to have responsibilities. He wants to be on the bridge crew. Mariner's got all this depth around the relationship with her mother and her trying to kind of fit in with her rebellious nature and Starfleet. Tendi, she has some stuff going on, but I kind of think in some ways, especially seasons 4 and 5 are where she really gets into it. I wish they did more in the earlier seasons to highlight her, because her whole thing is she's an Orion, she's a science officer.
Yeah.
And there's, like, 2 moments in these earlier seasons that do these things that build up to the important stuff in the later seasons. So one of them is she accidentally ends up on this away mission with Ransom, where they have to go to a Romulus planet, and basically, I forget if it's they're, like, stealing something from them or they're, like, rescuing a person or whatever, but it's like, Black Ops covert, hey, we're gonna have to get in there and beat up a bunch of guys, and she is just absolutely smoking fools, like, taking care of everything. And then there's another one where her and Mariner realize, hey, we don't get to talk that. We should go away and we should have an away mission and, like, a girl's adventure. Yeah. And while they're doing this, they realize, like, oh, actually Mariner doesn't know anything about Tendi and she's a bad friend, blah, blah, blah. But at one point they have to go to this Orion outpost, and just one person sees Tendi and they're like, Mistress of the Winter Constellation, she's like, just do this thing for me. And Mariner's like, what did he just call you? Just don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Just forget you heard that, okay? And, like, that's kind of the problem is her and Rutherford too. They're very, like, upbeat, optimistic. They have their moments, but they're not in the same way working towards and overcoming the sort of emotional or personality or psychological problems to the same degree as those two. So I still really like them, but Boimler and Mariner do end up feeling just slightly more lead character than Rutherford and Tendi, and it's why I haven't had as much to say. Tendi, there'll be more in the next one just because there's more of them. One sec. I need to find if it is in these seasons or if it's in 4 or 5 that it happens, because it has... Okay, it's season 4. So I won't talk about that yet, but that has maybe one of the funniest and dumbest and best things. So I'm like, it's silly, but it seems like it's a real thing, but we'll get to it.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about it animation wise. So this is done by Titmouse, who they've done a million things. To me, they'll always be the Metalocalypse people. I know for a lot of people they've actually done far more important and other things, but that is who they are to me. try to pull them up here to think what are like recently they've done like that Legend of Vox Machina series. They worked on stuff like TMNT. Apparently they've done some work on Invincible.
Yep, they have. They're doing Among Us.
They've worked on that Stugo show, which
yes.
I tried watching that.
I haven't
Whatever,
watched it,
but
I've heard things about it.
I'll say when I initially saw Lower Decks, I kind of didn't want to watch it because
the
it has
look of it doesn't. It's very
it's
flat,
got what
flash
I like
animation.
to describe as a post Family Guy look to it, where a lot of adult animation, even some of the good stuff like BoJack Horseman, it's just got that very flat, not as shaded. But I would say this is a step above those shows. In particular, sometimes this show will have really fantastic animation. Like there's 2 episodes where, so one is season 1, episode 9, Crisis Point, where they go like, so the idea is basically like Boimler has created this holodeck simulation of the entire crew that he is trying to use it to simulate an interview with Captain Freeman so that it goes well. You know, he's basically running through it. Mariner takes this and then builds her own like crazy dramatic story. So it goes into like ultra widescreen, black bars across the screen, and it goes more dramatic shadings. So like there are episodes where they will like punch up the animation, or moments in episodes they'll do it. But even without that, I think that this looks and moves in particular a lot better than most of those other. Just gonna like quickly Google some adult animation shows of recent.
What kind of adult animation is on?
Not the porny kind. God damn it!
Man, come on.
No, I'm thinking things like. Is this list gonna give me anything good? Probably not. No, I want bad adult animation. This stuff is all good. That terrible Scooby-Doo Velma show, like that
Velma,
one,
yes,
or Grimsburg. I don't know if that's any good or not. That Crapopolis show, like all of those, I think look worse than Lower Decks. I think in particular, Lower Decks does actually have like it feels like the difference is Lower Decks uses the animation style to its advantage. It's very aware of what it is.
Sure.
And so like it does fun things with its character designs, and like the facial animations, they're a little more willing to be cartoony at times, right? Characters' mouths will get bigger than they should. Eyes will bulge like a little bit. I'm not talking like, they pop out of the face type thing, but it knows it's a cartoon, and it does a lot with that, and likes to go goofy as a result.
Yeah, I mean, Titmouse is full of very like extremely talented animators. We didn't even touch on some of the stuff they did, but they worked on like Gentry Chow. They worked on Pantheon first off. I don't know, I'm not sure that did.
Never heard of it.
You and everybody else in the fucking world, except for you did.
I introduced you to it.
I know.
They've worked on a ton of great stuff, but like
Scavenger's Reign, which has gotten like crazy accolades for like beautiful animation, etc. Titmouse is a great studio. They know what they're doing,
and they use the cartoon nature of this to do well, and like very creative, right? Like a variety of aliens, where I feel like a lot of those other shows, you were talking about like, oh, it's that flat flash animation style. And one of the things I feel about those shows too is that as a result, like once they have their characters designed and their backgrounds designed, it just doesn't feel like they get that creative in terms of like, oh, well, we have to figure out a way of like writing this stuff without creating too many new characters, because then you have to, literally design new characters or like have them go to new places. This show is not afraid of that, right?
No,
it's very, Star Trek, Alien of the Week, Planet of the Week. So it's more than willing to just bring in characters, have them do some weird, fun stuff. Mm-hmm. I can't recommend this show enough. Just as kind of a final closing point, especially right now, with all the things that are going on in largely America, but other places, but in particular America, and a lot of the attitude coming out of there.
Yep.
This show is perhaps the best Star Trek has been at being Star Trek, at, focusing on hope, focusing on the ideas of friendship and just building relations, breaking down barriers and not allowing prejudices and not focusing on the negative aspects of things. It's kind of the best that's been since Voyager, I would say.
Interesting.
So,
okay,
20 years. But it does some of that stuff so good. Like, there's an episode where, so after Boimler gets cloned in a transporter accident and he comes back to the Cerritos, there's an episode where he's just being I think it's Crisis Point 2. So it's Mariner's whole story thing. And they're supposed to have this fun adventure, and he's just being really, short-fused, and also he is desperately trying to find some meaning in this. That no, you don't understand that this holodeck adventure, it's gonna give the reason for my life. It's gonna help me figure all this out. And Mariner just gets pissed. She storms out. And Ransom sees her. He's like, "Oh, Mariner, how's Boimler doing?" She's like, "He's being a fucking asshole. Why?" He's like, "Oh, well, I gave him the day off because William Boimler, his like clone, died in a freak accident." She's like, "Oh, that's why he's like acting the way he is." And like, he has this moment where he's just talking about like, William Boimler, that's me. That's my clone, and he's died. Just there's an accident with a chemical in a bay, and he just died, and that's it. And that could have been me. I could have just died, and then what does my life mean? And the lower deckers kind of all come together, and they talk him through this about like, no, like, yeah, his life is gone, but like, you have an impact on us. You have an impact on the crew, on all this stuff. Like, you matter. You're important. And that kind of Star Trek-ness, it's so good at. And, like, having that...
Cool.
And unfortunately, for all the times for this show to end, when you kind of need it the most, but, hey, this show is still there to watch.
Yeah,
so for anyone who hasn't watched it, and all the stuff that's going on in the South, and, you feel that despair, this is a good, I don't want to call it an antidote to that, but it's definitely a good relief from it.
It sounds like a really good feel-good show. Like, people come together for common causes, good causes. It sounds like it's a great, get in the same boat and we'll make it to shore.
You got that right, baby bear.
Yeah.
Don't you just wish someone just called you Baby Bear all the time?
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Yeah, right? No, it really is. It's that, if you've ever liked a Star Trek for those stories and for the way that, it tries to inspire hope, that it wants you to think, it wants you to think, it wants you to know science is cool. Exploring is important, that science these rules. Things matter, that capitalism sucks ass and should be destroyed. This is the Star Trek for you.
Hell yeah.
So that's been season 1 through 3. We will talk about 4 through 5 in a couple of weeks, and how it continues with a lot of this. Has some fantastic moments, does some really interesting things in itself.
Yeah, I mean,
that's all I got.
I gotta actually sit down and watch this show.
You do.
I really do. It's one of these ones where, like, I meant to do that over the weekend because it was a long weekend here in Canada, and I was just like, I should sit down and check this out. I got distracted by other things, and I regret not jumping on it. I meant to watch it earlier as well, but like I said, the animation style kind of turned me off. But now hearing that, it's like, hey, it actually gets out of that a little bit and it becomes its own real thing. I'm back in. Also, like for my D&D group, my Blaze in the Dark group on Fridays, like they're all into this show, and I'm just like, I'm like the only one not watching this. I was like, okay, it's that good, but like they're all Star Trek people and I'm not, and I'm like, oh.
Okay, but now you could show up into your game, the next one, and you just start calling them Baby Bear. And like, does he know?
Oh my god,
does he understand Shax?
I should just do that without actually like even watching the show.
Yeah.
And then it's like, have you watched Lower Decks? No. What was that?
No, I don't know.
Why are you calling us all Baby Bear?
Baby Bear.
What's going on, Baby Bear? You're pretty fucking good. I would like that. I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to actually discuss about this show before we sign off?
No, that's all I have to say so far about this. But like I said, we'll have more to discuss soon.
Yeah, in a couple weeks. Sounds good. Well, in that case, then, we are on Blue Sky. You can find us there at eifnirpodcast. You should yell at us about how much you enjoy, specifically just seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Star Trek Lower Decks. You fixed the telecard. I didn't put the seasons in there because you didn't tell you it was put season 1, 2, and 3.
It doesn't matter, does it?
It does. Well, no, but I mean, I like to be consistent. It's a completionist thing. I have a problem.
Okay. Well, you should go see Dr. Miglimo, played by Paul F. Tompkins. He's a bird alien that's all about food.
Yes. Okay, I will. That sounds fucking great. I love Paul Tompkins. Yeah. You should also go to our Spotify and iTunes pages and listen to the show, follow us, etc. Do the things, click buttons. Go to YouTube, click more buttons until you reach the outer limits of space, and then a alien that is comprised entirely of light and blips speaks to you.
All right, yeah, checks out.
It might be God. Couldn't tell you.
No, God's what was he? He was just like a gas cloud.
Yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Is the blippy.
Okay.
Also, as the song says, God is a DJ, so. Life is a dance.
Probably not a good DJ though.
Really depends on your perspective, I guess.
Like Christian music's cool, but in a DJ set,
yeah. What if God as a DJ only played like death metal, but like in like a club setting?
That'd be good. I mean, like I like monks chanting, but it's just on a DJ set.
Just Ghost. not even death
all right,
metal.
Yeah. No. All right. Now I'm back in. That sounds good.
Also, go to our friends. Speaking of DJs, go to our friends, which is djdane.com. Let's go to some music. djdane.com. Go there, listen to his great tunes. And I would just say, if you want to strip an entire starship, he'd be the guy to do it.
Yeah, no, he can do that single-handed. Like, those things are only, a kilometer in length, but he'll be fine.
He's got legs. He can run.
Well,
I'm
not
assuming...
on the outside of a starship, but you know.
Sure, but on the inside, though, you can do it.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is it for our show. Tune in next time for another ebonized episode of Everything's Fine with Ruined. See ya.
See ya.
Say it.